mysterious, terrifying. North Korea is the most isolated country on Earth. Kim Jong-il, known as the Dear Leader, rules as a god king. He controls the world's fourth largest army and plutonium for nuclear weapons. Now we'll penetrate North Korea with a man on a mission to help the blind see. We'll find a world of absolute conformity, full of government minders.
Tomorrow we are going out of our country.
And unimaginable horrors that people risk their lives to escape. As we try to capture the real story of life inside North Korea. (1:45 a.m., the 38th parallel, along the border of North and South Korea. The 238-kilometer-long border is the most heavily militarized in the world. This joint South Korean-American platoon is on constant alert for infiltrators from the north. Behind these fences, North Korea has a 1 million-man army. And now, nuclear weapons which they could use or possibly give away to terrorists. The soldiers can monitor every sound and movement close to the border. But what makes this place so dangerous is the uncertainty of what lies on the other side of the divide. North Korea is one of the most secretive countries on Earth. It's regarded as an intelligence black hole. But we know some basic facts. North Korea is roughly the size of Greece. It has 23 million people, a showcase capital, Pyongyang, and is completely controlled by Kim Jong-il. The Dear Leader is an absolute dictator, worshipped in a personality cult perhaps more extreme than any other in history.
Kim Jong-il is the son of God in North Korea.
Author Michael Breen is an expert on North Korea.
Kim Jong-il is the state. The notion of questioning his ability to rule or what he does doesn't enter into things.
Everyone is trained from birth to love the Dear Leader. And no outside sources of information are allowed. Newspapers and television are controlled by the state. There's no internet, cell phones have been banned, and many don't even know a man has walked on the moon. Ju Sung-il defected from North Korea.
There's no freedom. It's a country run on tyranny and dictatorship. I don't think anyone can understand North Korea until they experience it.
North Korea is known as the Hermit Kingdom because of its extreme isolation from the rest of the world. But on the other side of Asia, one man is literally planning to bring light to the darkness of North Korea. Nepalese eye surgeon Dr. Sandeep Rayt travels the world setting up eye clinics in developing countries. Dubbed a miracle doctor by the media, Rayt trains local doctors in inexpensive and effective treatments for cataracts. North Korea may be his biggest challenge yet. Thousands of people go blind due to a lack of even the most basic medical facilities.
The annual number of surgeries performed is just very little. And the blindness magnitude is one of the highest in the world.
Rayt plans to travel from Nepal to North Korea to do more than 1,000 surgeries in less than 10 days. His mission is purely humanitarian, but what the North Koreans don't know is that our camera crew is going with him. So what do you think of the cameras so far, Dr. Rayt?
It's big.
You think these cameras are big?
It's big.
I'm Lisa Ling, a reporter for National Geographic. Our camera crew is posing as members of Dr. Rayt's medical team. We're going to document his work and show the world what life is like inside North Korea. This meeting in a Kathmandu hotel room will be the last time our team can converse in private. So there will be a North Korean man traveling with us the entire time, from here to Pyongyang.
From here to Pyongyang and back to Kathmandu.
North Korean minders will meet us in Nepal and monitor every step until the trip is over. Dr. Ruet knows our South African cameraman, Brian, and I will be watched very carefully. Do you think that Brian and I will be followed?
I'm sure.
And he's concerned that the cameras will attract too much attention as we enter the country.
We can put the camera down there.
And wants to pack them more carefully, buried beneath the medical equipment.
Okay, and pack it with linens.
At the Kathmandu airport, a North Korean official checks our luggage. And Dr. Ruet's plan for packing our cameras seems to work.
And everything is okay. We reached the luggage.
2 North Korean minders are already keeping an eye on things. And our team is on edge as we wait for our flight.
All of us will be watched very carefully.
Yeah.
I think you shut your camera down now.
After hours in the air, we steal these shots as we approach North Korea. Normally, Americans are not welcome here, and I'm told I'll be the only one in the entire country. North Korean animosity toward the US hasn't changed since the Korean War more than a half-century ago. They still view us as imperialists and hold us responsible for dividing the country between North and South. On the ground, we get our first glimpses of the capital, Pyongyang, and shoot undercover footage. No easy task with minders in the car. We pass 12-lane highways with hardly any cars and see images of the great leader everywhere. Pyongyang is a city of the relatively privileged. The government rewards strong supporters by letting them live here. And unless you're a high-ranking official, you need a permit to travel anywhere in the country. They've seized our cell phones. Immediately, there's a feeling of being completely cut off from the outside world. At the hospital, hundreds of blind people have already gathered for surgery. Since the North Koreans know we're documenting Dr. Ruet's medical procedures, we're allowed to shoot inside. Hopefully, this will let us see past the propaganda that's usually presented to outsiders. This hospital's probably as fancy as it gets in North Korea. Most of this cutting-edge equipment was donated by other countries, but few doctors know how to use it.
It is from America, Iris.
The government has let Dr. Ruet and his team come because it's a way for Kim Jong-il to get services to his people. Our team has had to bring most of our equipment and supplies with us. And because blackouts are common, even here in the capital, we've brought our own generator for power. We can only stay for 10 days, but in that time, Dr. Ruet hopes to conduct more than 1,000 operations to help the blind see. And if the mission's to be a true success, he'll train North Korean surgeons to carry on his work after we leave.
With such a poor quality of surgery which is performed, we need to do a lot of training programs.
While we're anxious to get to work, first our minders want to take us to see their version of North Korea. We're starting to get a sense of what it's like to be trapped under the iron grip of Kim Jong-il. At our hotel, all of the books are by one author, Kim Jong-il's father, the founder of North Korea, Kim Il-sung. I hope we can see what life's really like here, but Kim Jong-il controls everything. And the rare times that he's granted foreigners access, they've only been shown idealized versions of the country, like in this Dutch documentary called A Day in the Life. In this scene, a mother sings nursery rhymes as she walks her child to school.
아니, 승냥이 미국 놈 무릎 꿇고 살려달라.
Then she goes to work at the garment factory. It's a worker's paradise. Finally, she returns home to a lavish meal. The film shows only the cheerful facade, because here, image matters. And North Korea goes to extremes to show its best face to the outside world. From North Korea, you can see the South Korean border village of Taesongdong. It has a 100-meter-tall flagpole towering over it. But just 2.5 kilometers across the border, the North Korean village of Kicheongdong was not to be outdone. They built a flagpole 160 meters high, the tallest in the world. And the town itself is not what it might appear. In this propaganda village, most of the buildings are merely facades. Hollow on the inside, they were built to entice South Koreans to defect to the paradise in the north. It's a fitting metaphor. In North Korea, things aren't necessarily what they seem. After letting us shoot inside the hospital for days, our minders take us for a walk in a park and allow us to bring our cameras. Our cameraman comes across a bench.
So why is it in a glass box?
Sorry?
Why is it in a glass box?
Yeah, there, and then our people want to preserve no damage. Yeah?
yes.
They
It's a
think
special bench, sat upon by none other than Kim Il-sung himself.
That's cool, Mr. Park. Very cool.
Back on the streets of Pyongyang, our cameraman wants to take a photograph of a statue of the great leader. It's huge, so he lies on the ground to make it fit in his shot. But the minder lets us know this is a mistake, a big one.
No, there is no one, no foreigner, to
just lie down.
in front of our great leader's statue. I'm afraid tomorrow we are going out of our country. Just look far.
The minder doesn't follow through on his threat to kick us out of the country.
In my heart, in our heart. Then you lying down.
But it's clear that antagonism still exists between North Koreans and outsiders more than 50 years after the fighting ended. In 1910, Korea was colonized by Japan. The brutal occupation ended more than 1,000 years of Korea's reign as a sovereign nation and was a major source of shame. Japan lost Korea in World War II, and the country was split between the American-backed South and the Russian-backed Communist North, led by a young rebel named Kim Il-sung. In 1950, Kim Il-sung invaded the South to unify the country, and the U.S. opposed communist expansion at all costs. As many as 4 million people died in the Korean War, which included some of the most brutal warfare the world has known. In a 4-month period alone, the U.S. dropped nearly 1 million gallons of napalm. 18 of 22 major cities in North Korea were at least half obliterated. In 1953, after 3 years of fighting, Korea remained divided in almost exactly the same place as it had been before the war began, the 38th parallel. While most people think the war ended more than 50 years ago, there never was a peace treaty. And more than 19,000 days later, the very, very long ceasefire continues today. The Joint Security Area on the border of South Korea is the one place where North Korean forces stand toe-to-toe with the rest of the world. On one side of this concrete marker is North Korea. On the other, the joint American-South Korean forces. Every flinch is monitored. Neither side wants to blink, and nobody has for more than 50 years. In this unique area, each side shows its best face. The North puts only well-fed top officers here, and the South stacks their side with men who are at least 1.77 meters or taller. But only one side is worried that their soldiers might want to defect across the divide.
You can see on the North Korean side how they're set up. They have two soldiers watching each other, so neither of them defect. And then they have their leader to the north, making sure that no one else from the north will come down and defect.
On the DMZ, everyone is considered the enemy.
Defector Ju Sung-il was a North Korean officer.
Whether you're a North Korean resident, a soldier, or South Korean defector, we had to kill without question.
With everyone watching, no one can cross here. And defecting anywhere else along the DMZ is nearly impossible. The DMZ, or Demilitarized Zone, is a 4-kilometer-wide buffer that runs 238 kilometers along the border of North and South Korea. With more than 1 million landmines, high-voltage electric fences, and nearly 2 million soldiers, crossing over is almost certain suicide. Above ground, the DMZ is an almost impenetrable divide. But below ground, the North has secretly dug at least 4 invasion tunnels into the South. Carved through solid bedrock, the tunnels are wide enough to allow 10,000 North Korean soldiers an hour to sneak behind enemy lines. Some are even big enough to drive a tank through. These tunnels were discovered before they were completed, but military officials think there may be as many as 16 more scattered elsewhere along the DMZ. The DMZ helps North Korea keep its own citizens inside the country and cut off from the rest of the world.
She's very blind, isn't she?
She's totally blind.
At the hospital, more than 1,000 blind patients from all walks of life have been picked by the government to see Dr. Ruyt. Waiting in line, we meet an older woman who's been blind for 7 years. Her son-in-law has brought her today for her preliminary exam. She's totally blind in her right eye and can barely see out of the other.
No hand movement.
Dr. Ruyt's team examines the patients to make sure cataracts are the source of their blindness. A cataract is a clouding of the normally clear lens of the eye. It's like a window that is frosted or yellowed. With the right equipment, it's easy enough to peel out the clouded lens and replace it with a clear plastic one. Dr. Ruyt is ready to begin his surgery. With his modern equipment and expertise, it's a quick and simple procedure. It takes only minutes to replace each lens. But with more than 1,000 patients waiting, Dr. Ruyt's team needs to treat more than 100 people every day. In the developed world, cataracts rarely get so bad, especially in young people, that they result in blindness. But here, because of poor care and likely poor nutrition, the incidence is as much as 10 times higher than in the West and afflicts young and old alike. This woman is only 35, and her blindness has kept her from marrying. And this woman has been totally dependent on her husband for years. The demand here is enormous, but in North Korea, cataracts are only a small part of the humanitarian nightmare. German physician and human rights activist Norbert Fallerton worked for over a year in North Korea. He shot pictures of the horrible medical conditions, bloody old operating tables, beer bottles for IVs, no antibiotics or anesthesia.
Of course, the North Korean government will tell you everything is free in North Korea. It's not true, because it's not available. There is no medicine, there is no running water, there is even no soap in the hospital.
But it was the lack of food and its effect on children that made the most lasting impression.
When I was a medical doctor in North Korea, I saw a lot of starving children. I saw children dying under my hands when I was too late, when there was no more need for any emergency duty, because the child was dying when I came into the room. So I felt so helpless.
In the mid-1990s, natural disasters and government mismanagement created a famine that killed up to 3 million people, about 10% of North Korea's population. Taking place in the heart of prosperous East Asia, it was one of the worst famines of the century. Today, nearly 40% of North Korean children remain chronically malnourished. The average 7-year-old boy in North Korea is nearly 20 centimeters shorter and 10 kilos lighter than his brother in South Korea.
But I'd say the damage to his bones is permanent.
They're called the stunted generation.
It's a tragic situation, and it's extraordinary because same race, same people, same basic diet, and that's all malnutrition.
Reluctant to ask for help from the outside world, Kim Jong-il has expelled aid workers. Over time, he has isolated the country from much of the world, even cutting off communications with his neighbors to the south. This room on the DMZ is one of the few places set up for meetings between the North and South Koreans. One door opens to the south and the other to the north. They hold hands to keep from being pulled over the border. Both sides have access. But despite only being separated by a pane of glass, a meeting is hard to come by. Simply trying to get a message across the border reveals how much relations have broken down. Today, the joint U.S.-South Korean forces have a message to pass to their counterparts only a few meters away in the north. A telephone hotline is supposed to connect the two sides. They use a 1962 Russian crank phone contributed by the North Koreans in the 1980s to ring up their neighbors to the north. Apparently, it's not a good day to call North Korea. But there is a foolproof method to get their message across.
Pick up the phone. We have a message to pass.
전달할 통지문이 있으니 전화를 받아주시기 바랍니다.
We have a message to pass and we'll be reading it.
전달할 통지문을 지금부터 읽겠습니다.
To Senior Colonel Kwak Yong-hun, Korean People's Army. Subject, remains repatriation.
The South Korean forces have found the body of a North Korean soldier who was washed downstream after a recent storm.
In accordance with paragraph 13 Foxtrot of the Armistice
They want to repatriate this body, along with more than 50 Korean war remains they believe belong to the North.
He failed to respond to our proposals to meet on 26 July.
They've tried once before to reach the North Koreans over this issue.
I propose to meet you in the Military Armistice Commission conference room at 1400 hours to arrange the repatriation of all these remains. Signed, Colonel John W. Towers, Secretary, United Nations.
But today, again, the only response is silence. Evidently, the North Koreans respond only when Kim Jong-il tells them to. Making the case that it's part of our medical research, I've been pushing our minders for a while to let us go to the home of a blind patient. Much to my surprise, they suddenly agree. The blind woman lives in a 6th-floor apartment in the heart of Pyongyang. Since I'm told I'm the only American in the country, I feel lucky, but a bit surprised that the minders are willing to take me here.
What a beautiful home.
There are 6 government officials watching our every move, but it's still a rare chance to see inside a real North Korean home. Like others in Pyongyang, this is a privileged family. The woman lives here with 4 of her family members, including her 2 granddaughters.
How difficult is life for your mother without sight?
The son-in-law answered without missing a beat.
The most difficult thing for my mother-in-law is not being able to see Kim Jong-il, the dear leader.
Why do you want to see the supreme leader so much, so bad?
이 세상에 나다가 우리 수령님 덕에 우리 자식들 팔남매가 이렇게 행복하게 사는 걸 우리 수령님을 쳐다보고 인사하고 싶어도 수령님이 용상이 우리 빛이라도 보였으면 하는 소원이 됐습니다.
She was obviously moved, but what surprised me was so was everyone else.
This party official is crying.
Even this government minder.
어머니 말씀 들어서 눈물이 나는데 나라가 그 장군님 안 계신다면 우리는 다 죽은 목숨을 하는 거예요. 나도 어렸을 때 아버지 잃고 정말 장군님 품속에서 학원을 거쳐서 오늘처럼 이렇게 도민의 대사 지도를 이루라는데.
North Korea is a very small country. How does the great leader defend it against big powers like America?
Even though North Korea is small, we serve the greatest leader in the world. We have a strong arm of unity, which is stronger than America's atomic bomb. America has no idea how to deal with this. This is all because we have General Kim Jong-il as the leader of our nation.
It helps to have nuclear weapons, doesn't it?
As the conversation wound down, I wondered, where did North Korea's willingness to face down the entire world come from?
Our country's unity is stronger than a nuclear weapon, so we're not afraid.
How did this powerful mindset take hold? North Korea's defiant stance toward the rest of the world stems from a philosophy created by Kim Il-sung called Juche.
The Juche philosophy basically means up yours to the outside world. We can make everything ourselves, we don't need you. And from an outsider's perspective, it's a peculiar thing. I mean, why make such a big deal out of being independent? Your people are starving, you've got no economy, you've got no trade. But in the Korean context, it has a profound resonance because Korean history is one of invasion and all sorts of abuse from major powers. So the North Koreans turned this history around and said, we're not going to take it anymore. And for Koreans, there is a very profound thrill that someone would have the guts to stand up and be like that.
Kim Il-sung used Juche ideology to run North Korea for half a century and to transform himself into the father figure of the nation. He ruled with an iron fist and wielded absolute power. When Kim Il-sung died in 1994, he left behind a traumatized nation. His son, Kim Jong-il, took power in the world's first communist dynastic handover. Following in his father's footsteps, Kim Jong-il rules by fear and rarely listens to his own advisors. Hwang Jong-yap was a high-ranking party official.
When I proposed something, he would pretend to listen at first, but in the end, he would never listen.
Over the years, Kim Jong-il has used the Juche philosophy to unify his people in opposition to all things foreign, especially during times of hardship like famine. But personally, he indulges in luxurious imports. He has a 20,000 title private movie collection, a fleet of more than 100 imported limousines, and at one point was the largest single customer of Hennessy cognac in the world. Still, he uses the Juche ideology of self-reliance to justify his rule and crush all dissent. And one way he's held on to power is through the use of concentration camps to strike fear into the hearts of the people. Places like this, a 50-kilometer by 40-kilometer long work camp known simply as Number 22, are scattered throughout North Korea. Camps can be the size of small cities. Number 22 reportedly holds up to 50,000 people, and many who enter don't leave alive. Defector An Myung-chol was a guard at Number 22. He escaped through China and is one of the few guards to tell his story to the outside world. Though satellites provide the only photographs of his camp, An remembers every detail.
When we were educated as guards, we were told not to think of the prisoners as humans. The moment you enter a North Korean prison camp, you're no longer a human being. If you think you're a human being, there's no way you can survive in the camps.
An saw his fellow guards beat and even shoot prisoners for minor offenses, like searching for mice to eat. Food was always scarce.
I remember seeing kids fighting over a corn kernel they found inside cow dung. A cow had eaten corn, and the children fought over it, and eventually washed it in the water and ate it.
Camp 22 is a family camp. The people there didn't actually commit crimes themselves, but were the family members of those who allegedly did. If a North Korean citizen simply complained to a friend about that month's rations or did anything else that could be seen as questioning the regime, his entire extended family, children, parents, cousins, could end up in Camp 22 for life.
The people didn't know how or why they ended up there.
Camps, especially those like Number 22, which house the families of the accused, keep people loyal to the regime. And when someone tries to defect from the country, their family often faces death or imprisonment. Despite the cost, many people are so desperate they try to escape anyway. Most go through China, which shares a long border with North Korea. For years, especially after the famine in the late 90s, missionaries and paid smugglers have led desperate people out. Tens of thousands of North Korean refugees have come through China. Many are led out by Pastor Chun, a South Korean living in Seoul who risks his life bringing people to freedom.
Before the group makes its move, I tell them which parts are dangerous or what to look out for. They could potentially be thrown into prison camps or executed. So everyone is extremely nervous and frightened. You can never tell when you're going to be arrested by the Chinese police, or if you're going to be shot while crossing the border.
While some continue on to South Korea or elsewhere, those who remain in China live marginal existences and are under constant threat of repatriation back to North Korea. Though thousands have snuck out of North Korea through China, only a handful have successfully crossed the DMZ into freedom. One of the few to escape directly to South Korea is a 25-year-old student living in Seoul, Ju Sung-il.
I personally believe that I made it through with the guidance of an invisible hand because of God's will. Ju used to be a guard in charge of a propaganda broadcasting booth on the North Korean side of the DMZ. My position was not an easy one to get. It required extremely strong loyalty and belief in the system. And not one mistake would be tolerated.
One night, a soldier working for Ju broadcast the wrong message. He told the enemy that the next day was a holiday in the north. If I had stayed, I would have been under great threat from the North Korean government. I believed my chances of survival were zero. Before the authorities arrested him, Ju and his friend tried to escape the only way they could, across the DMZ. They drugged their fellow guards and came to a series of deadly electric fences used to keep people inside North Korea. Ju thought he had a plan to divert the current long enough for them to squeeze by, but he wasn't sure it would work. Even though I had worked on electric fences before, I wasn't confident that I had mastered the skills, so I felt scared. Ju assembles a special plastic pole he stole from an equipment shed. He takes off his clothes so he can slip under the fence more easily and wraps the end of the pole in case any electricity flows to the handle. Ju needs to hook the pole onto the electric fences in order to temporarily divert the electricity into the ground. One slip can be disastrous. Once the electric flow is cut off, there's only about 2 to 3 minutes that it can hold. After that, you can easily burn to death on the fences, so we had to be extremely careful. He uses wooden stakes to push up the fence. I could still hear the electric flow in the fence. The pole a couple of meters in front of me sounded like it was crying out, almost as if it was going to burst soon, at any moment. On the other side, he motions for his friend to join him. My junior was very nervous and frightened because he had no previous experience with electric fences. At first, everything looks okay. But halfway through, disaster. Full power returns to the fence. Ju can only watch. Seeing someone who set out with you die in front of your eyes is just a horrible thing. It felt like my own body was breaking down. That memory follows me around like a nightmare. But Ju continued onward. Step by step, he picked his way across one of the largest minefields on the planet. Finally, he crossed into South Korea and surrendered at a guard post.
For me, I had a privileged life in that society, but I don't yearn for it anymore. There's one core value that is missing there, which I think is freedom. I can say that I don't miss the North because it doesn't have freedom.
But there was a huge cost to be paid. When asked what happened to his family as a result of his leaving North Korea, he replied ominously,
I'd rather not talk about it.
It's our final evening in North Korea, and Dr. Ruyt works late into the night to reach his goal of operating on 1,000 patients. He believes in humanitarian engagement with all of the countries of the world, whatever their politics.
The North Korean people have two eyes like you and me. They have a mouth and they have teeth, you know? And it's for the world in general to understand that in North Korea we have a lot of people who need our love.
If all goes well, tomorrow the patients will have their vision restored. But how they actually see the world may be different from what we expect. At the hospital, the cataract patients are waiting for Dr. Ruyt to remove their bandages. He's achieved his goal of operating on more than 1,000 patients. But they still don't know if they'll be able to see. Most have been blind for years, some in one eye, others in both. Dr. Ruyt is optimistic.
We did a little more than 1,000 surgeries, and all with very good results, no infections. On that aspect, I feel okay.
If everything goes well, as soon as the bandages are removed, people will be able to see immediately. The minder gives us one last warning to shoot only the full image of the dear leader. The moment of truth comes first for a 23-year-old woman. She's come with her father and has been completely blind for years.
Open her eyes. Yeah? Can she touch my nose? Where is your, ask her where is her father?
아버지 어디 있나 여기?
여기 있습니다.
야, 내 보이느냐?
네, 잘 보입니다.
보이니?
네.
위대한 장군님의 덕분이구나. 우리 장군님께 큰 썰을 드려야 한다. 우리 장군님 정말 고맙습니다.
이 자리에서 아버지 장군님께 감사 인사를 드리고 싶습니다.
위대한 연구자 김정일 원수님 정말 고맙습니다. 위대한 연구자 김정일 원수님 안돼!
Next is a 35-year-old woman who is blind in both eyes.
Hope we can make her see a little better so that she can get married. Ask her to open her eyes, please.
뭐예요?
지원 소위를 도만해서 소금을 많이 내어 장군님께 기쁨을 드리겠습니다. 정말 고맙습니다.
Now we spot the grandmother we had visited at home. She's been waiting for years to see the dear leader.
Yeah.
And she's not disappointed.
정말 고맙습니다. 정말 고맙습니다.
Each time a patient regained their sight, we were amazed to see them direct their gratefulness toward the dear leader.
부디 건강하십시오. 이렇게 늙은이 어린이 아픔이 안아주시니 얼마나 고맙습니까?
Despite the hardships, he receives credit for everything that happens here. As I watched hundreds of people do and say virtually the same thing over and over and over again, I wondered which people had genuine faith and which were acting out of fear.
제가 다 하지 못한 충성과 헌성을 우리 아들딸이 다 하도록 하며 우리 장군님을 천세만세 받들어 모시겠다는 것을 굳게 교리합니다.
And finally, it hit me. Here, after generations of absolute rule and complete indoctrination, there may not be a difference between true belief and true fear.
미제 원수들을 이 땅에서 완전히 소멸할 때까지 선에서 총을 든든히 들어주고 미제 침략자들을 철저히 소멸할 것입니다.
North Korea is a place ruled by an absolute dictator who now possesses nuclear weapons. It's no longer possible to regard the country as an isolated anomaly. What happens here in the Hermit Kingdom can directly touch everyone in the world.
새 광명을 주신 위대한 장군님께 저는 게러리어 온 가족들과 함께 충성을 다하겠습니다. 위대한 영도자 김정일 동지 만세! 만세!